I would like to try and tackle the subject of off-grid solar, and even if you're on-grid, much of this information will be relevant to you still. When people are interested in solar, they generally ask questions like, what's it cost? How big is the battery I need? And how many panels do I need? None of these questions are simple, and the answers change dramatically based on many different variables. We are going to cover most of these variables, but in the meantime, here's the simplest answer I can give you. We're going to cover the biggest variables, which will dictate what size system you're going to need. Firstly, your intended lifestyle. Are you planning on living in a large home with all the trimmings, or something more minimalist? Secondly, the most energy demanding thing we do is heating and cooling. So, what is your insulation and window situation going to be like? Appliances are going to be your next big energy consumer. Hence, what type of appliances should you be looking for? And most importantly, what is your climate zone? Do you get extreme temperatures, lots of snowfall, or do you simply have a lot of trees blocking your incoming light? It's also extremely helpful to have a basic understanding of how it all works, and sadly, that means math. It seems tedious and hard to follow at first, but it quickly becomes second nature as you actually begin to use it. Because there is so much information to be had that not all of you are going to be interested in, I'm going to break this video down into a few time-stamped sections. While I suggest you watch it all, this way you have the option to skip to what is most relevant to you. First and foremost, do you have a place to mount the panels that's not going to be blocked by trees or covered with snow? Since cleaning snow off roof panels can be both dangerous and difficult, it's much better to have them mounted vertically if snowfall is a major concern, as vertical panels will get little if any snow cover at all, and they'll be much easier to clean. While solar panels that track the sun are a thing, they are obscenely expensive and very impractical. Panels that can adjust 45 degrees from spring to fall manually is the best way to get these gains without the cost. Appliances which require a large amount of heat should be gas, like your dryer, your stove, or your water heater. Things like single burner electric cookers or electric heaters do make great backups, just not as a primary. I have listed here your most common household appliances and their approximate wattage. While wattage gives you an approximation of how much power the appliance uses, watt hours tells you how much wattage it uses over time. In this example, we are using a 5 kilowatt hour battery. As you can see here, the common microwave uses quite a bit of power. However, it only uses it for about a minute, so it translates to only 24 watt hours, or less than 0.5%. The math is simply 1400 watts divided by 60 for 60 minutes to the hour. And that right there is half of the math. The other half of the math has to do with peak power, which leads me to inverters. Power in the battery is stored in DC. The inverter changes this over to AC power, like any electrical outlet you would have in your home. If we stick with our 5 kilowatt hour battery example, a 2000 watt inverter is about what you would expect. This means that your inverter can only put out 2000 watts or 2 kilowatts at maximum. In this example, microwave plus toaster equals bad. While it's not good for your equipment, breaking this limit isn't the end of the world. It's about the equivalence of popping a fuse. It is important to note that there are some things in the house which run automatically and create a constant power use, like the inverter itself using 60 watts. Batteries also have a maximum input, in this case 3 kilowatts. In order for any charging device to charge the battery, the incoming voltage must significantly exceed the running voltage of the battery itself. Which leads us to the rated and actual output differences of solar panels. As you can see here, the difference between what they're rated at and what they actually do is significant. Solar controllers will have a range of acceptable inputs. In the case of 48 volts, that's going to be between 60 and 90 volts. You really shouldn't have to worry about this too much if you string the right number of panels together. In the case of 12-volt panels, string them 4 at a time, and with 48-volt panels, string them 2 at a time. This is known as hooking them up in parallel, adding their voltages together by hooking the positive of one panel to the negative of the next. As for rated wattages, the panels generally do what they say, but only under the absolute optimum conditions, which is honestly more rare than you might think. As a result, I generally round down on those wattages just a little. For on-grid users, your local laws and policies will be a big factor, but it's generally still a good long-term investment and a great way of making your home both economically and environmentally more sustainable. Solar controllers are fairly simple, though you do need to make sure there is a preset setting for your battery type. While some small-scale users are using lead acid, most users will be using lithium ion. I try to keep my videos as to the point as I can by squeezing as much information in as short of a time as possible. I hope you found this helpful. If so, I would very much appreciate it if you would subscribe to my channel.